there are all sorts of names for this. Omicron's little brother, a stealth subvariant. I think people will appreciate your comment on Twitter. You begin it with no panic and you call for more data. What do we need to know about this right now?
Yeah, so as you saw in Christine's report, we are seeing it in various parts of the world. We've seen it here. Omicron came to Europe first, so that's again where we're going to look for this knowledge. And in various European countries, they are reporting that this subvariant, slightly different than the original Omicron, and we're calling it BA.2, is growing faster. And when a variant grows faster, it either means that it's more transmissible, or it means that it's better at evading the immunity in the population around it, or a combination thereof. And both of those are concerning things. It does seem to be growing faster than the original Omicron variant. So this could be a concern because it could prolong the Omicron wave. It could give us sort of a double wave. And you heard that comment that, what if people who had the original Omicron, which is a lot of people now, can actually get reinfected with this? And there have been a few reports of that in Denmark. That, of course, might be just exceptional cases. But I think that's the big thing, because there's a hope that we get to some level of population immunity with Omicron. And do we lose that already with this subvariant? So I'd say we have to learn more, and hopefully that isn't the case. But this is something we have to keep an eye on.
So 51 cases in Canada, mainly from international travelers. I think listening to your statement, you can hear people across Canada going, oh no, not again, because so many health officials are talking about being optimistic, glimmers of hope, turnaround on the horizon. But this in some ways has to be the reality that we face, does it not, Dr. Gupta, of the possibility of new variants coming along?
I think we can't let our guard down. We always want to remain hopeful, but we don't want to be foolish. The reality is that until we get wide vaccine coverage, we will have parts of the world where variants will emerge from, because there's just so much infection, and that's, I think, we've got to keep the eye on the prize in terms of global coverage, global protection. We might be doing well here, countries in the West are doing well, but if we really want to protect ourselves long term and get out of this pandemic, we've got to prevent that next variant from coming, and we're not even close to that right now.
It is a variant under investigation, just to be classifying it right now, not of concern, but as you say, we'll definitely keep an eye on this as it spreads in the world. 47 countries now and growing. Something that we've been talking about and were extensively last week is Paxlovid, the Pfizer pill. It is being distributed across the country. Alberta, a select group of people in Alberta, for example, are going to have access to it as of next Monday, the 31st. And we talked about it, Dr. Gupta, as being a game changer. Many people are saying that in terms of reducing hospitalization among those at highest risk. And yet, there is perhaps something dashing the optimism, and that is growing information about the fact that it interacts with many commonly taken drugs.
Yeah, I think it's a game changer if a lot of things go right, if you can get people tests, if the right people know to get tested, if you can get the results to them quickly, and if we can get enough doses. The last piece here is if we can safely give it to the people who need it, and this is where drug interactions come in. This is a medication that it affects a certain enzyme that lots of other drugs also either depend on or affect. And what that means is that there are many drugs that can interact with this medication, and some of those are pretty common things. There are cholesterol medications, certain heart medications, blood thinners, allergy medications. In some cases, we'll be able to hold those medications temporarily for the 5 days that the patient gets this drug. In other cases, we might just dose reduce those medications. But there will be cases where there's what we call a true contraindication. You just can't give the drugs together. So there will be some people in whom we'd like to give this treatment, but we can't, because they're on something else that contraindicates it. How many is hard to know. Unfortunately, we don't have the trial data that would sort of give us an inkling of that.
But the FDA FDA did say, Dr. Gupta, that more than 100 drugs, more than 100 of those common drugs should not be taken with the pills. So does that mean it's actually dangerous? Does it mean it won't be able to help as many people? How should we interpret that?
Yeah, so I think, to be fair, the FDA said should not be taken or should be monitored. So I think it's a case-by-case decision depending on what the drug is and how important it is for the person and if it's safe to temporarily stop. we can't, it's early to say sort of how many people this will affect, but the concern is that because the people who are at highest risk of severe disease are also the people with chronic diseases who are often on other drugs, will we often face this situation? We would know that from the trial to some extent. We don't have the trial yet, but the trial would tell us how many people they approached that they had to exclude because they happened to be on a medication that wasn't compatible. So that, either real world data or getting those trial data is what will tell us this. But until we have that, we won't really know how many people will be excluded from using it.
Okay. Tempering our expectations for now. Let's look at one more area of research. Pretty interesting. There have been researchers studying potential effects on COVID-19 of CBD and other cannabinoids. And the results, I guess they're early, you'll tell us, but even they have been surprised. What are you seeing in the study, and tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, so CBD, is considered one of the medicinal ingredients in marijuana, and there are a lot of things that it has been tried for, and not a lot of things it's been shown to be effective for, but people have thought maybe it could work, it could help with COVID-19 disease, and there's some theoretical reasons it might. It has some impact on the immune system, for example. And now we've got a couple of interesting lab studies. There was a study probably about a month ago initially that showed that in a lab model with a pseudovirus, the CBD seemed to be able to attach to the spike protein of the virus, and that would impede it from entering cells, which is a good thing. And now this new study in mice from about a week ago is suggesting that the CBD seems to reduce the replication or the growth of the virus in the cells lining the lungs. So both of those things are kind of encouraging, and there's a path to sort of imagine CBD might have an early treatment role, but it's a long path. Again, these are lab studies, and most things fail, unfortunately, between the lab and the animal and the human because they just don't translate. And the other thing just as a caution for people out there is that, in fact, the other ingredient in marijuana, which is THC, seems to inhibit this benefit of CBD. So you can't get this benefit from smoking marijuana. This is really from the CBD component, and we have to study it in humans to know
So that
this.
explains the jokes from the late night hosts about how, they've been talking a lot about this as a potential therapy, but they're missing the point. It's not that part that is the helpful part. It's the CBD part. Okay, Dr. Gupta, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much. I appreciate your expertise as always.
My pleasure. Take care.